Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I'm Goose. As always, we have Healy with us. This is episode number 126. On this week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about baseball, the MLB trades that happened last week. We didn't have a chance to go over those, our reactions, the winners, the losers. We have the Field of Dreams game tonight, so it's going to be a big one. You got the Cubs and the Reds. We're going to transition over to the NBA. We'll talk about Bill Russell and his universal jersey retirement of the number 6 and what applies to that. And then we'll transition over to the NFL, Roquan Smith trade request, some other news. As always, make sure if you are listening, you hit that download button, you hit that like button, leave a review. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts and YouTube as well. And then you can follow our social media. We are SR Only Pod. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can follow our personal accounts. I'm iGoose with 4 O's, and we have Healy as well.
I am at the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, Field of Dreams game. Last year, it was electric. It was two great teams. Yankees, White Sox. Couldn't have been any better with the storyline where the Yankees came back. They got the lead, and then the White Sox walked it off in the bottom of the 9th inning. Picture perfect. And
everything, yeah.
They decided to do it again this year, though, with different teams. And they decided to go with the Cubs and the Reds. Last year on the poster, the Cubs had who did they have on the poster? They had a bunch of people on the poster for the Reds and the Cubs. I think Wilson Contreras was one of them. Luckily, he's still there because the trade deadline passed. We'll talk about that. But Joey Votto would have been like the only person still remaining on that poster because Nick Castellanos is gone. And they've also just had injuries that have hurt them too. So yeah, not the best record from either team. I looked at ticket prices last year. I almost paid $1,300 to go to a game. This year, I didn't want to pay $650. It was like half the price. It was my team that I could have went and seen, but it wasn't worth it to me. It would just be for the experience. Well, I would want a good product on the field as well, not to just say, hey, I went there.
Yeah, because essentially you're just paying to go to the field at that point, and there's a baseball game going on, so it's like, obviously, you're talking about two horrible teams, two of the worst in the NL. I wouldn't say the worst, but they're pretty bad. Maybe you get to see a few guys that you like on the Cubs, but you go to Cubs games all the time, so it's not like you don't see Wilson or any of these other guys, Ian Happ and guys that we thought were going to get traded. The starting pitchers today are kind of boo-boo, if you will. You have Smiley going up against Lopolo. Drew Smiley versus Nick Lodolo. I'm sorry, I don't even know who that is. I said his name wrong. A combined ERA close to 10 between these two guys. So maybe we're going to see some bombs smacked left and right into the cornfields. For $650, I'd rather save up, go to a playoff game on the south side when the Sox end up sneaking into that first place, hopefully. But it's just not worth it. You would think, well, the Cubs and the Reds are classic teams. They've been around. They're some of the longest franchises. We saw the Yankees and the Sox last year. I think the problem is we are following up to the Yankees and Sox, that crazy game where star-studded, crazy, like up and down. I mean, obviously we saw the Sox win the game, which is awesome. Walk off by TA7. It's just not a fun game. I actually forgot that it was today until I saw the headline earlier today. I got like an email for it from when I signed up for the emails for the tickets for last year. I ended up not going, and there's nothing that's exciting about it. There's nothing exciting about it. It's Iowa. No offense to Iowans. I do hear Iowa City's a fun city to go to. I couldn't pay half the price of those tickets even to go.
I'm just hoping for a good game. I'll tune in a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely not going to draw me in. And especially last year's game, it was like one of the most seen games in history of baseball in like since 2000 at least.
It was like watching a movie. It's pretty cool though because there's not as much like crowd noise. So you kind of hear a little bit of everything going on. So that part is cool. And seeing the field is cool. But I don't know, are they going to do the whole intro again? where you have what's his face coming out like in the movie. Like, I don't think they need to do that again. It's not
No,
necessary.
no, because it's not the same exact teams. Basically, from what I'm seeing on Twitter at the moment, they've had like both teams on the field, and they're having like old players there, like Carlos Zambrano for the Cubs, to name one, Ken Griffey Jr. and Senior for the Reds. They're just having a bunch of old timers walk out too.
So they're trying to make it interesting. I think they understand that it's just not really, a
Oh,
fun
that
game.
Griffey and Junior lead everyone out from the cornfield.
Griffey Senior and Griffey Junior.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Griffey, yeah, he played with the Reds. It'd have been cool to have Sammy Sosa come out of there.
Yep. Unfortunately, the Cubs hate him, so
Yeah, yeah.
that
I think
was
there's quite
not
a
even going to
few.
happen. The Cubs, though, we'll begin talking about the MLB trade deadline. The Cubs fucked themselves over so bad, and I'm kind of mad. I'm glad that the Contreras and Ian Happ are still in the Cubs uniform, but the Cubs really screwed themselves over with trading them. So now they're holding on to Wilson, who will they even offer him a contract? I don't know.
And then he just walks.
And they would get a pick for him, which is, I guess, cool, but like they could have got multiple prospects for him. Pick only does so much. And then Ian Happ coming off an all-star season, his best season of his career with 1.5 years left of control. He's going to go into the offseason with 1 season left, and he isn't as hot, or who knows if he'll continue it next year. But like when you're trading for a guy at the deadline and they're generally hot, like he was having with his season, they will help you.
And I don't know if it's one of those, maybe they just felt like they weren't getting enough for Hat, and maybe they're expecting big things from him going in towards the end of the season into next season, and they can get him to a team that's ready to win now, because that's what we see a lot, right? Like guys on the last year of control, last year of the contract, and it's Yankees are trading for him generally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's one of these big top teams. So hopefully it pays off, because I mean they've been talking about trading Contreras the last couple of seasons, and I mean it's not like he's ever really been a bad catcher. It's not like he's had a horrible season ever. So the fact that they didn't, and I wonder if it was just because the fans were reaching out and they were upset that they were going to get traded, and you see Contreras, hit a little emotional in the dugout. And at the end of the day, you got to remember this is a business, and if you want your team to win, you have to understand that these guys come and go. These guys come and go. You will celebrate a championship more than you'll celebrate a player who never
Mm-hmm.
wins for you. That's the way I look at it. I mean, obviously, there's some exceptions to that. I shouldn't say that because loyalty does matter. Dame Lillard and like in Portland in the NBA, they'll never win. But if they do end up winning, he'll still go down as one of, whatever. But my point is, for the purpose of the business and the future of the club, you want those guys to get traded. You want some talent back. You don't want to lose an asset and let him walk. It's just not worth it.
And the thing is, the Cubs, it's not that they didn't get value for those guys. They had the value in trades on the table. They waited too long. The teams that were interested, especially in both, like in different packages, the Mets and the Padres, those are the big trade places to go. As we'll talk about, the Padres ended up getting Josh Hader and Juan Soto. So you can't really trade him there. They didn't want him anymore. And the Mets, they went out and got Darren Ruff. They went out and got Tyler Naquin. They went out and got some bats and some relievers. And they had no need to then go out and get Wilson Contreras. In no sense. The Houston Astros, they traded for Christian Vasquez. Is he better than Wilson? No. But they went out, they made their move. They weren't going to wait. And because of that, there was just no places for them to go. Could have been like the Yankees, but the Yankees ended up getting Andrew Benintendi early on. They also then went out and got Frankie Montas. They also traded for Harrison Bader, an outfielder.
Yeah.
The Cubs just waited way too long, and that's why they messed up. And they got too greedy, and it's going to hurt them in the long run on that. But the biggest trade of them all, I did not see this happening. They said that he was going to get traded, Juan Soto, before the deadline if he didn't accept their contract offer. And I didn't believe it. 2.5 years. And I was like, no way this happens. No team has what the package to offer. And forgot that Juan Soto or the San Diego Padres did indeed have the package. They've had like the top farm system in recent years, and they traded like their top guys in their system easily. They traded like their top 4 or 5 guys. They traded a pitcher. Was Mackenzie Gore thrown in that trade?
He was.
Yeah, Mackenzie Gore, who's like
Yep.
a major league level talent type guy. CJ Abrams has been up. Robert Hassel is supposed to be a stub. They got James Wood, who's 6'7". He's a beast outfield. And they're able to make the trade. So now Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis are in San Diego. And because of that trade, we already know the Padres should offer Soto an extension. If not, they're just going to ride out these next 2.5 years and go all in. But you'd think they'd sign him to an extension, especially like what they did with Fernando Tatis originally.
They need to. I think it's very important they get him, considering his age and what he could potentially make more. Lock it in now. Get him on, even if it's a 7 or an 8-year deal. Get him, because we're talking about a win now window. I mean, you go out and get Juan Soto. They got Hader, that we saw that as well. They were already a favorite going into last season. They were a favorite already when they got Machado, and for Tatis is starting to go off. He smacks like 40-something home runs in a season. And obviously they have some solid pitching as well.
With Clevenger, Darvish, Blake Snell is there.
I was going to say, when is
Joe Musgrove?
Tatis? What's
Tatis
the return
is supposed to come back within like, he just started rehab. He had a triple and a double in his rehab debut.
Oh, so he can be back as soon as like next week or 2 weeks. That never lasts very long.
Yeah, once he gets pulled up to speed, he will be back on the major league roster. And him, Machado, Soto are like, it's must-watch baseball.
Are we talking better than the Dodgers when they are fully healthy and ready to rock?
Yes.
This is it. This is
maybe not better talent-wise, but they're definitely more watchable.
More watchable. Man, they can win. They can win in a series. They can definitely win in a series. I wouldn't go bet against the Dodgers. I think Dodgers is still my favorite, but it makes it more fun. They're ready, third wild card team.
Well, Dodgers just crushed them in a series.
Dodgers are good. Dodgers are very good. They have a lot more talent for sure. But it's going to be fun to watch. The West just got much more dangerous. The East got weaker, obviously. They were kind of on the way down. Mets are good. Braves obviously made a nice little comeback this season. But all eyes right now are going to be on that NL West, because even the Giants have been competing over the last few years. They're like the NFL. They're like the NFC West. It's like heavy hitters left and right. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work together. Baseball's a nice little sport where if one guy's down and 2 other guys are doing good, like, they can win games. So we'll see how it goes. And I know I'll be watching as soon as Tatis comes back. We saw Soto already go yard.
Yeah, first time yesterday. And as I mentioned in a previous podcast, the dude is 23 years old.
It's crazy. 23 in baseball, to have the impact he brings to the table at that age is unheard of. You don't get that. NBA, okay. NFL, okay. baseball, when you get guys this young, under 25, let's say, under
Yeah.
25, with this much impact, and I don't even know if he's in his prime. That's the scary part. We don't even know if he's in his prime yet. So, and Tatis obviously super young as well, but is Tatis 1 year older, 1 year younger? What is he? He's got to be like the same age.
Fernando Tatis is 23 and 221 days old. Juan Soto is 23 and 290 days old. So
Interesting.
Tatis is just a little bit younger, but he debuted a year later. And Juan Soto, who was like 19 at the time or 20, was in the World Series putting up numbers. He was
It's
part of that
crazy.
World Series team. He already has a World Series ring under his belt.
He knows what it takes. He's patient at the plate. One of the most patient batters we've seen in the history of the game. Lefty batter too. Everybody always needs a good lefty batter. I I'm looking forward to you know what the thing is though, if they're a wild card team, if they're last in the wild card, they're not doing the 1 game playoff anymore, are
No.
they? So
This
there's a whole
year,
series. So they'll
this
face the
year
first seed.
it's no. This year it's a 3-game series, so the top 2 teams get buys.
Oh yes, okay.
Then the third division winner with the lowest record and the 3 wild card teams play in a 3-game series each. So I am hoping when I go to San Diego October 6th through the 9th, that the wild card starts the 7th through the 9th, that the Padres pass the Braves in the wild card spot and they get all 3 home games in San Diego that weekend.
That would be sick. Can you imagine the atmosphere there? I mean, their stadium's actually kind of a cool little stadium that they got set up.
I was talking prices with a friend and he was like, yeah, no tickets can be under $1,000 for a wild card game. I was thinking like 500 maybe. I'm thinking possibly lower. You would have to get like some of the worst seats though, but I would want to go.
Look where it's at. Nothing's cheap in San Diego. Nothing's cheap in California.
Yeah,
But
but it
that'd
is
be
baseball and
awesome. That's
stuff.
true. That is very true. Maybe wildcard might not be as much. We'll see. But that would be sick. That would definitely be sick. Well, I mean, as far as right now we're in the middle of August. Today's what? The second week is the 11th. We're at the point where it's the race for October. I mean, there's what, maybe 50, just under 50 games left.
Yeah, their playoff chances are really high at the moment because there's a lot of bad teams in the National League.
Yeah, Milwaukee is 1 game. Where are they 1 game? Oh, they're 1 game back in their division. Milwaukee and St. Louis, one of those teams are going to be fighting for that wild card because they're 6 games up on the Giants. I don't see any of these NL Central teams making the wild card at all. They're 3 games behind San Diego in the last spot.
Why does it say 1 game back for the? Oh,
Well, they're from their division.
okay.
Yeah.
Why does it say 1 game back of the wild card then? I'm looking at the wild card standings.
That's what I'm
and
looking
saying
at
that.
too. It's deceiving. I know. I
Yeah.
had to do some quick thinking. It's very deceiving. So it says 1 game back from Milwaukee, but it's not from the wild card. They're 1 game back from being in a playoff spot. So I think that's what the game's back is. But I
Yeah,
mean,
that makes
Milwaukee or
sense.
St. Louis. I mean, it's to me they're like the same team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
AL. We see what we're getting in the AL. AL Central and NL Central are like the same compared to the other powerhouse divisions. The Houston Astros are dominating the West. The Yankees are dominating the East.
We have the Orioles in a playoff spot right now.
That's so crazy to me that they're tied for that third wild card spot. And I'm almost rooting for them. I think the Orioles have fucked so many of my parlays that, like, at this point, they should make the playoffs. Like, that's all I got to say. Tampa, obviously, is always good. I want to see Toronto and Seattle for sure. be the top 2 wild card spots. I don't care who takes it out of the East. White Sox 3 games back from the division. They're 1 game. Minnesota's 2 games back, so they have a game behind Minnesota there. But I think the White Sox have what it takes. I mean, it's just not. They lost today. Dylan Cease gets a loss, but he's continuing his streak of like 14 straight games of 1 earned run or less, which is unheard of. He struck out 8, but then relief pitchers, they give up 3 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th. I mean, at that point, when the bats aren't doing anything, it's not really much we can do. But that top of the order, 1 through 4, for sure 1 through 4 is looking pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. The
Yoán
White
Moncada's
Sox
struggling.
White Sox didn't make like any trades.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. You would have thought they would have been in on someone. Maybe they didn't have an answer. They didn't know if this team could make the playoffs and it was worth the risk to go out and trade someone. And they're also not in a spot where they could dump someone. So I think they're just like, we're just going to ride this out. While other teams in their division said, you know what, we're going to try for it. Like the Minnesota Twins. They went out there. They got Tyler Mahle from the Reds, who isn't doing so hot this year, but last year, and he's had a history of performing well. Maybe he'll do a little bit better with a contending team. They went out, landed him. They traded for Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and Steven Hajar. Don't really know who they are. Not intentional with that rhyme. The Twins also made a little bit of a minor swap. They got Sandy Leone as a catcher to add to their depth. They also made another in-division trade, and they got Michael Fulmer. So, like, they went out there, and they're trying to get some pieces, try to make a playoff push. Holy shit.
And, I mean, they got the assets to do it. It's as much as I want to see the White Sox win, it's just so far they haven't proven to want to do it. We talked about the Twins being potentially dangerous leading up to basically through the offseason and free agents, going out and grabbing Correa and some of these other guys, and Byron Buxton is smacking balls left and right out of the park. And Haley, did you die on me over there?
My dog tipped over the camera, so.
Oh no! Commercial break.
That's what happened. Well, yeah, they went out, made some changes. The Guardians are in contention for the division, which is surprising as well. We thought this was gonna be an easy division for the White Sox. The Twins, we thought maybe could have contended, but they're leading at the moment, and it's looking scary for the Sox as they're at 500.
Yeah,
and the Guardians are at 59 and 52, which isn't great. Meanwhile, the Astros and Yankees have 70 wins.
There's hope. There's hope on the South side. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see. But definitely some huge trades, winners and losers. I mean, like you mentioned, the teams that didn't make the push to better the future. It's even win now, Sox, Cubs. Those are the 2 I immediately think about. I mean, we saw like the top teams go out there and make moves. Mm-hmm. We saw the Mets, we saw the Yankees and the Astros, and more importantly, we saw the Padres. And to me, the biggest winner is the Padres, hands down. You have a farm system for a reason. Is it going to hurt them in the future? Potentially, yeah.
But that's the risk you take for a championship.
That's what you gotta do. And look at the age of the guys you have on your roster.
You don't need to sign guys or have developed guys when you have these guys as your stars.
Yep, I completely agree. Completely.
And we didn't really get in depth, but we did talk about the Juan Soto trade. They had to send Luke Voit to the Nationals, which a little bit of a controversy. The original trade included Eric Hosmer. The Padres wanted him off the books. The Nationals agreed to it. But when it came down to it, when they signed Eric Hosmer, he signed a no trade clause. He said, I'm not going to Washington. You see what they have? I get them going with younger guys, but I only have a few years left. This team is not going to be good. Decline. And the Nationals, they were losing Josh Bell in the deal. Forgot about him. Josh Bell went to the Padres as well to help him out. They needed a first baseman, so they had to give up Luke Voit. Eric Hosmer, too, he got traded to the Red Sox, and the Padres ate up all $44 million, whatever he had left. Which is crazy. They're like, you know what? We just need him off this team. We'll eat the money. We're going to spend a lot regardless. Take him. And yeah, he's no longer with the team as well. They went out and got Josh Hader, who has a year and a half left of control. Another guy with a lot of control. Josh Hader, he did have a little bit of a rough stretch, but it was made known that he was tipping pitches, and hopefully he fixes it. There was a game the other day where Manny Machado had to walk it off after Josh Hader blew a 3-run lead. Hopefully he figures out. I don't know, but the Padres gave up Taylor Rogers, and then they gave up Robert Gasser, Esteury Ruiz, and they gave up Dinelson Lamet, who's been battling like an arm injury over the past few seasons. That's why he hasn't been starting. He's been a relief guy, and he got DFA'd immediately by the Brewers. I guess they're like, fuck it, we're releasing you. Padres got really good. The other team that got better, the New York Mets. They went out.
Absolutely.
They were wasting no time with the BS that the Cubs were giving them, and they went out and got, I don't know if I have the timetables right, but the first trade here, they got Darren Ruff, who smashes left-handed pitching. Doesn't have a high batting average, 216, but put him on a team that has a lot of depth, and you're able to make lineups depending on who you go up against, a platoon style lineup. That's why they got Tyler Naquin. That's why they traded for Daniel Vogelbach. They got Michael Givens from the Cubs, a reliever. Let's see, did they get anyone else? But that's just why they got those pieces, so that they could make sure they had a solid lineup no matter who they face in the playoffs. Don't really see any other Mets trades. We talked about the Naquin stuff. The Yankees, they added some pieces. They got Scott Efros from the Cubs. The Cubs, in almost all the trades they did make, they did get back pitchers who throw gas, who get a lot of strikeouts, so that's good. Efros, though, was a weird one. He has 5 years left of control, but he's 28. So they said, you know what? You could go to the Yankees. We'll get back a younger guy who has like the same amount of control. We'll work from there. They also got Frankie Montas and Lou Trevino from the A's. Montas has been the guy teams have been trying to go after like all season after Luis Castillo. Castillo got traded. So Montas to the Yankees. Lou Trevino is a nice addition as well. They gave up the number 5 prospect in their system, 10, 20, and 21. So not a bad haul. They gave up 4 players for 2 different guys to add to their team. Don't know how much control they have left for that. And they also, because they got Andrew Benintendi, they traded away Joey Gallo. And Joey Gallo got traded for, what did he get traded for? He got traded for a prospect, a AA prospect. They didn't beat her. So Gallo didn't have a great time in New York. The New York just got to him, even though it was his favorite baseball team growing up. He needed a new atmosphere. They did well
Absolutely.
when he was playing, but his performance wasn't so hot. Need a new atmosphere. The Dodgers are like, yeah, you know what? We'll take a flyer on Joey. We'll see how he does. His first home run with the team, I believe, yesterday. So now they have two guys who don't know how to hit baseballs, Cody Bellinger and Joey Gallo at the bottom of their lineup if needed. Both great defenders. But Joey Gallo left, which is a plus for the Yankees. Whit Merrifield got traded at the last second to Toronto, which is crazy. Merrifield could have been traded in previous years. The Royals held on to him for whatever reason. He'll be an okay addition as his production hasn't been too great. The Phillies are kind of gearing up for a playoff push. They went out there and got Brandon Marsh originally. They traded Brandon Marsh for who is this? A minor league catcher. They also went out and got David Robinson from the Cubs for another minor league pitcher. And then because they got an outfielder, they're like, hey, Angels, you want to make another trade? They sent number 1 overall pick from a few years ago, Mickey Moniak, to the Angels for Noah Syndergaard. So Syndergaard could be a back end starter or probably like a bullpen guy, long reliever if needed. I feel like he probably should make that transition. Skipping around a little bit, the Yankees also made an interesting trade. They traded Jordan Montgomery, who's had a pretty good season this year, for Harrison Bader, who will now fly around center field, help him out in that aspect. A little bit of a weird trade, but it happened. And there was one trade I wanted to talk about. White Sox got Jake Diekman. Forgot about that, but pretty minor. Reese McGuire. Oh, well. Trey Mancini. The Astros traded for Trey Mancini, who it sucks to see him leave Baltimore, especially with what they're doing at the moment. But Baltimore knows that they're in the playoffs. This isn't their year, though. Trey Mancini's final season's here. They traded him to the team. Let me see if I'm correct. No, the Dodgers have the most wins in baseball. So the most wins in the American League, I'll say, the Houston Astros. And his last AB with the Orioles was a home run, and his first home run with the Astros was a home run.
That's crazy. That's a good dude right there. That's a guy who's been loyal to the franchise. I know it was kind of weird to see
cancer.
Yeah, it's crazy to see him go through all that and finally be a part of I mean, it's weird to say that the Orioles are a winning ball club, but they are. And then they obviously had I don't want to say they didn't have a choice. I would say they had a choice in keeping him and maybe extending him, but it's his last year. You get what you can. There's no way they're going to compete for a World Series this year. I mean, they are super hot right now, but the reality is it's just not there. So it makes sense to get what you can while you can, considering this team might be good for the next couple of years, depending on which route they go. So.
And I also completely forgot. Apologize for whoever's listening for all the jumping. The Padres added a 4th player to their team, getting Brandon Drury, who's having a pretty solid season, batting .274, 20 home runs, 60 RBIs for just a prospect. Brandon Drury, I don't know how he's doing with the Padres at the moment, but yeah, the Padres went all in. That's why the trade deadline is fantastic.
Better than most trade deadlines. Definitely. Although NBA trade deadline's been pretty hot the last couple seasons.
Yeah, it's just there's more players in baseball, so there's more movement, which gets more hype. And I want to talk about a loser of this trade deadline. Well, we already know the Cubs. Cubs are a loser, but also another team that's been a loser trade deadline. I'm surprised the Giants didn't get rid of Carlos Rodon. Where's the holdup in that? Rodon probably won't be with the Giants again next season. So why'd they keep him? He's been
That's a good question.
Hot pitcher in the past couple of years.
Maybe they're anticipating they're going to slide into that third wild card spot. I mean, it's going to take a lot. I think they're 3 or 4 games back. a lot of baseball left. The Giants are a team that is very streaky, but surprising nonetheless that they didn't let him go. Maybe he'll come back to the South Side.
So yeah, now there's the playoff push happening. If you aren't winning these games and series, you are hurting yourself. Beginning of the year, every game matters. I get that there's 162. Every game matters at the end when there's only a few games that separate teams. But now is like really when it kicks it up a notch. Like we're able to see the Padres Dodgers over the weekend. In that series, we saw the Mariners and Yankees battle it out the past few days. Classic game where it went 13 innings, 1-0 game, 13 innings. And the Yankees at one point had 37 batters up, and the minimum was like 36. So through 12 innings, the Mariners had only seen one more batter than the minimum. And what's funny about that is the Yankees got 3 hits. So how did they face almost the minimum? In extra innings, the Yankees were dumb and they got doubled up with the runner on second base twice. There was once where the ball was hit back to the pitcher. He threw it to second base, caught the runner too far off the bag. And then the guy who hit the ball originally tried going to second base while the pickle was happening, and he got thrown out.
I saw that.
And I don't know the other one, but the Yankees had some dumb base running there. And if you are a baseball casual, I would try to watch some more as this season winds down, especially with playoff potential games. Those are going to be the ones you want to watch, and it's even better if they're divisional games.
Yeah, this is the time right now. This is going to be the playoff push. We're going to see some big battles. Seattle is, I mean, to me, Seattle's a team that's going to be tough for a lot. I mean, they showed up last year when I didn't think they really were that great last year, but I mean, they were consistent the whole season. So we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, we have a lot of big divisional matchups still to come. Some big games. So, but that's going to do it for the MLB. I think, did we go through all the trades? I think that was it, right?
We went through most of them.
The main trades, at least.
It wasn't pretty, but we went through most of them.
You know what? Sometimes the best games won aren't the prettiest. So, but we're going to transition over to the NBA. We only have one hot topic, but it's a big topic. Bill Russell, the NBA is universally retiring his number across all teams in the NBA. I say that's awesome. Thumbs up by the NBA. I still think there's some other players that could have their number retired as pioneers, like Wilt Chamberlain, so on and so forth. Probably Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, and maybe some of the other classics back in the day, Pistol Pete, maybe. I'm just naming off guys. But besides Bill Russell, the only player to have their number retired by 3 teams or more is Wilt Chamberlain, believe it or not. Fun fact. But this is awesome. This is about Bill Russell. He was legendary, won like 11 championships or 13, whatever it was, and obviously dominated the game. He dominated it in his own way, and he played in an era that was tough. And shout out to the NBA doing it. It would have been kind of cool before he passed away, maybe, but this is in honor of him. So shout out to the NBA for the gesture, and shout out to Bill Russell, man. Awesome career. Did some coaching after.
I was talking with a couple of people about that today. Like, should that have happened a long time ago? But in a sense, like there's no like reason to. Like, I get he had his own award. He had the Bill Russell MVP, Finals MVP award. But there wasn't like a reason. And he's like, we talked about it when he passed. He's like the first like legend that has passed away. And he was there in the beginning too.
From the beginning, yeah. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain's the only one I can think of from like that era where, and even then I think he might have been, I probably have the years mixed up a little bit after, like slightly after Bill Russell, but they played together.
Yeah, but Bill Russell's like constantly talked about in like the top 10 NBA history.
Always. I mean, you got to think how often he won. Everywhere he went, he won. It was consecutive seasons. It was domination and never had a bad season. I mean, player efficiency, I don't even know if it was rated, but I'm sure they have a huge number for him. So I mean,
And he
I
also
grew up knowing
played
all of
during
them.
a time where America wasn't so nice to people of different colors.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that's probably another big reason that happened. I like it.
I like it. It should have
It's
happened
cool.
already, but yeah,
6 isn't a like a common number as well. It's not like they're banning. It's not like they're retiring like number 1 or like 11 or 12 or something like that.
yeah,
It's
it's
6.
a
6 is not very common. We
handful.
know a couple guys like LeBron and Caruso. That's it. I don't know like many others throughout history.
Montrezl
Speak
Harrell was six. But they get grandfathered in though.
Yeah, speaking of that though, anyone that's currently wearing the number 6 with their team can wear it as long as they're still with the team. If they get to different teams though, they have to pick a new number. So it's like with
Fair.
Jackie Robinson when his number got retired and we still had I don't know if Bruce Sutter was that number when it got retired. I don't know the timeline of that Jackie Robinson's retirement number. But like Mariano Rivera is the one that comes to mind where he he wore it after it got retired and he was able to.
Able to keep it. It's a good move. I mean, LeBron will go back to 23 eventually. He'll blame the number.
Yeah. And in this season, number 6 was actually worn by 25 different people. Notable names though. It is Nikhil Alexander Walker could wear it. Moses Brown, Shaq Buchanan, I don't even know who they are. Alex
Sadiq Bey.
Caruso, Diallo, if he's still
Oh,
with
Hamadou.
Detroit.
Yeah, Hamadou Diallo. Yeah.
Brian Forbes, he wants that. Montrezl Harrell, we know won't need it. LeBron, Keon Johnson, Kenyon Martin Jr. He's one that could be wearing it still. Jalen McDaniels, big one. Kristaps Porzingis, Lance Stevenson if he remains with Indy, and Lou Williams if he still remains with Atlanta.
Not a lot. Not a lot. 6 is a weird number in the NBA. It's a weird number, but LeBron, we'll see what he does. I'm sure it's going to go to the press. Whatever he does, he sneezes. There's Kleenex
Yeah.
is ready for him.
Yeah, people are gonna be mad no matter what he chooses. They're gonna be like,
No
"Oh,
matter what.
I think he keeps it." He made the decision. He went from 23 in LA to 6.
Again,
I don't see him going back to 23. It'd just be a little
no,
odd.
he's going to stay. He won a championship with 23. He went to 6. His goal, I think his thinking was, I'm going to get 2 numbers retired in LA as well. Cuz why would I let Kobe one up me? But we'll see.
That could be a decision if he gets 1 number retired. We'll see about that.
But that's it for the NBA. Nothing yet other than that's it. NFL, one bit. I mean, we saw the Hall of Fame game. I have nothing to say about it. I did not watch it. I saw highlights, didn't care. I will be starting fantasy football. My couple leagues coming up here. I'll let you guys know my picks. I'm gonna have my weekly, of course, my go-tos. Some of them hit last year. Some of them hit big. But in the news, womp womp. Sorry, Chicago Bears fans. Roquan Smith requests a trade. He is upset with the franchise and how they're treating him and how he feels like he's not getting the love back based on the loyalty he's given. He wants to finish his career, even though he's only been in the NFL for a few years now, but he wants to play his entire career with Chicago. He said he had not had a chance to speak with the McCaskies, but he hopes to mend, basically iron out the problems. And the issue is he wants to be extended. He wants to compete with this team, and he feels like he doesn't know the direction that they're going. I don't blame him. This is a guy who's been a Pro Bowl linebacker, a stud for this team. The Bears are always blessed with some sort of awesome linebacking core. He is leading it. And his letter was so professional. Most guys, they ask for a trade and they're cocky. You have the like Antonio Browns. You have Deebo Samuel was kind of cocky here and there, not horrible, but he's professional. He used his notes in his phone, wrote out a letter and said, "Hey, I'm officially requesting a trade, not because I want to, but I feel I'm pushed this way. And here's why. I didn't speak to the owners yet, but I'm really hoping we can work it out." My only thing about that is, from a professional standpoint, if he wants to get to that point, why not go to the owners and say, "Hey, I'm going to bypass the coaching staff because I feel like I'm not getting what I want from them. I want to let you guys know I am going to request a trade." And I don't know if he did or didn't, but for them to say, "Oh, well, you just put it on Twitter right away," or whatever it was, "why didn't you come to us?" And I'm sure he did. And I'm almost positive he did. So in one manner is like, do we let him go? Do we get what we can? If I'm the Bears, knowing that you don't really know where the franchise is going to go in the next 2 to 3 years, I say you keep him because he is he is so much value being on that defense where you can build around him. The offense is still kind of getting it together. Fields might blow up this year, maybe next year. So with this 2 to 3 year window before they're competing again, I feel like you got to keep him wrong. You're like, "Listen, all right, you know what? We feel bad. We haven't been listening to you. This is our plan, and we want you a part of this plan." I think that's how you got to present it. I know they can probably get some good assets, maybe a draft pick for him, but you got to keep him. You got to keep him.
It's definitely a tough situation because they want to pay him money. He's not getting the offers that he wants. And teams looking to trade for him, like, it's tough to gauge how much money he does want and how much you give up. They aren't going to be able to give up a lot. And the Bears aren't going to want to give him up for like nothing. And it's getting a little toxic. We're seeing a little toxic in the relationship because today or yesterday he got pulled off the PUP list, which is players unable to perform. They said, "Oh, you went to the public to request a trade? All right, we aren't going to be nice anymore." He has been available to practice, but because he requested the trade, they're like, "Yeah, you're healthy. We're taking you off this list. We're going to start fining you every single day that you aren't at practice." And uh, it's on you now. And the biggest problem, which might not be a problem for normal people in free agency stuff, but for trades, Roquan Smith is his own agent.
Ooh,
So what does
I
that
didn't know
mean?
that.
He has to be the one. Normally, from what I read, normally the agents, when a guy requests a trade, is the people who goes to the other teams to get trade feelers and like see what they would give up to get their guy. Roquan Smith can't really do that. And it costs him a lot of time to do so. So I guess if he's going to hold out, every second he's up doing so, he has to be in contact trying to legally figure out a trade that could possibly happen to him. Because it is kind of weird. He is his own agent, but he's also still a player, so you can't really tamper in that sense.
Exactly. So that gets kind of fishy. But he opened the door, right? That's the best thing he could do is open the door and say, "I'm requesting a trade and let's send some offers." You know they got trade offers already. There's got to be teams that were like, "Oh, feelers, if you will," but he's not going to know. That's the problem. He'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he's valued up to what point? I think that's the biggest thing. He's valued, but up to what point? So I'm hoping he stays, but also at the same time, being a Packer fan, if he gets traded, I'm cool with that.
Also, we were discussing like their O-line the other day. Tevin Jenkins, he came out on Twitter and said like, "Don't believe whatever." Because we were reading like, "Oh, the Bears and Tevin
Bad, yeah.
Jenkins, it was bad." Apparently, it's not. And he's fine, and he's also moving to right guard.
Oh.
They're gonna push him in.
Okay, that's
So
good. I mean,
we'll see how he does there.
a lot of praise.
Yeah, especially with guards. The tackles get all the money because they're protecting and they're like generally the bigger guys. But you got to be way more athletic to play guard compared to tackle. You're the ones that are wrapping around and going upfield blocking people.
Yep. I think he might be the guy. I mean, there was so much praise when they drafted him, and obviously he ended up getting hurt. I'm glad that it wasn't like legit what the media was saying, and they were unhappy with his injuries, his performance after his injury, and yada yada. So, but that's like goes to show that you got to take the media with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 weeks left of preseason. Like generally with the Hall of Fame game, there's like a 5th week. Now you would think that there's 4 weeks, but also like right after the Hall of Fame game, there were some preseason games, like a couple days after. So I don't really know the NFL preseason schedule.
September 8th is the opening NFL kickoff, and it's Thursday night 7:20 game. Bills in LA against the Rams. It is going to be an incredible game to
So
watch.
under
I
a
will be
month.
watching it under a month. So get your fantasy going. Let us know your teams. I'm going to be on Twitter. I know Healy will be on Twitter as well. There's gonna be a lot of football talk. This is the season right now. It's almost Christmas for us guys, or whatever holiday you celebrate. This is it all in one. You have the playoff push for baseball, NFL starting up. You have the NBA starting up, NHL starting up. We don't talk too much hockey. We don't really watch a whole lot of hockey, but this is the best time of the year. It's fall. I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Anyways, though, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Stay Home Only podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at SR Only Pod. Follow our personal pages. Mine is at the Healy6.
And I'm iGoose with 4 O's. Hit that follow button. Let's talk sports.